I might lose my farm because of the government.
Oh no. Who's to blame?
Let me introduce you guys to this farmer who is absolutely terrified that he's going to lose his farm after Trump unilaterally paused a Biden-era farm subsidy program. And who would have thought? Who would have thought that making sweeping changes to the federal government at breakneck speeds with no foresight or care in the world actually affects the lives and jobs of millions of voters? I mean, I'm talking about Elon Musk and Donald Trump at the same time. They are both trying to reshape the federal government in their image, and they either don't know about the consequences of their action, or more likely, they just don't care about the consequences of their actions because they're quite insulated from any consequence. I mean, the billionaire president and his billionaire buddies, who are the richest people in the world, aren't going to feel the consequences in the same way that this farmer is. So let's play this video. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and let me lay the groundwork by reading this article about how the U.S. Department of Agriculture has frozen farmer funding for some programs and some conservation contracts because it's actually the opposite of what the Trump administration promised. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has frozen some funding for farmers as it goes through a sweeping review, despite assurances from the Trump admin that programs helping farmers would not be affected in the government overhaul. Oh my lord, the Fell for It Again award. Trump supporters, farmers, Latino Americans keep falling for it. Muslim Americans, every single group that Trump made a promise to has fallen for it in some way and not gotten what they were assured to get. The impact has been wide-ranging and immediate, from cash assistance for ranchers to fix cattle watering systems, to help for corn growers wanting to plant cover crops that curb wind erosion. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is being hurt. Some of the money that has been frozen is tied to environmental conservation programs that were funded by former President Joe Biden's signature climate law, the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, which included about $19.5 billion for farm programs over 10 years. And what did I say? It turns out that making sweeping changes with no foresight or no care about your consequences actually hurts people. It turns out that, hey, maybe Biden knew what he was doing when he was allocating funds towards this group of farmers and this group of voters. He knew what he was doing. This freeze adds more economic uncertainty for farmers already struggling after several consecutive years of income dragged down by low crop prices. And remember, Trump's tariffs wouldn't hurt. Before we jump into the main video, I love this article because it shows how counterproductive Trump's tariffs are. This article from 2020, from the end of the first Trump term, shows a study that illustrates how 92% of Trump's China tariff proceeds had gone to bail out angry farmers, meaning not only does Trump not know how tariffs work, he thinks that other countries pay the tariffs, but when he does impose tariffs on a country like China, 92% of the proceeds that come from domestic companies end up going back into the pockets of farmers in Iowa and other key states after their farms were ruined. After their process got incredibly expensive due to tariffs, 92% of the proceeds went back to farmers to bail them out. What's the point then? If the money just goes back to bail out the people who are angry, what is the point? But let's jump into this video.
I might lose my farm because of the government.
Oh no. Who's to blame?
So they had a program out there called the EQIP program to better conserve farmland for agricultural use. We got a contract with them for $240,000, and we have bought different types of material. We've gotten paid out on some of it, but I now have $80,000 worth of material on me today and said, hey, I know we have this signed contract. We're not going to pay out on it.
I'm still waiting for you to say who's to blame.
And unless they lift this pause on payment, I'm going to lose this farm. The reason that they're not able to hold up the contract is our EQIP program is funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Because of the executive orders.
Whose executive order did this?
There's a pause or a freeze on the funding through the Inflation Reduction Act, and they're not able to pay out on the stuff that we completed or anything going forward. Multiple farms are going to sink if we don't get traction on this and get those funds unfrozen.
It is weird how you never say who's to blame. But, you know, considering the EQIP program was part of the Inflation Reduction Act, and that was brought to us by Biden, and now it's been halted by someone who said throughout the campaign that they wanted to terminate the IRA, I think it's important you say who fucking did it, because there is one specific administration who's trying to screw you out of that money. And newsflash, it's not the last one. And while of course I don't know exactly who you voted for, the fact that you don't actually say who's to blame for this says a lot. And I don't want anyone to lose their livelihood. That's why we've tried to warn you over and over and over again that this is exactly what would happen. Oh, and it might surprise you to know that it's not that they don't have the money to pay you. They just don't want you to have it.
A perfect illustration of where this administration's priorities are. They are trying to create room in the government. They are trying to slash programs so they can have tax cuts for their friends. For people like Elon Musk and it hurts the lives of everyday farmers. It also comes as a surprise, this freeze, to a community that voted overwhelmingly for Trump in the past 3 presidential elections. His first term brought farmers record cash, about $217 billion in farm payments, including crop support, disaster and aid programs, and after he imposed tariffs, he had to put that money back into farmers because they were pissed off. Rob LaRue, president of the National Farmers Union, told the Senate Agriculture Committee on Wednesday that the group was hearing from farmers across the country who were not receiving the expected payments from USDA conservation programs. One more time. Maybe there was a reason these programs were in place. Maybe Biden knew what he was doing when he was micro-targeting certain types of farmers and helping them with conservation programs. Quote, having USDA delayed with a lot of uncertainty about whether or not it will actually come through is adding to that economic pressure in the countryside. And this actually just perfectly shows how Trump and Elon Musk, not only are they trying to slash their own taxes, but when you go through and cut programs at breakneck speeds without thinking about the consequences of them, you will start to hurt people, everyday people who just want to operate their businesses. And Elon Musk does this all under the guise of wanting to slash the bureaucracy. If we tried to ask Elon Musk, if he were right here next to me and I asked him, hey, why did you slash these programs? Or why did Trump pause this program? They would say, because they're trying to dismantle the bureaucracy. It's too bureaucratic. But you can do that. You can make the government more efficient without nuking or pausing programs entirely. There are ways to go in there and like Biden did, micro-target certain areas where you think that there is government waste, but you can't just slash the U.S. aid entirely. You can't just slash the USDA conservation programs and the Treasury Department and everything at the same time. There is a middle ground. Missouri cattle producer Skylar Holden posted a series of videos on TikTok this week saying he had signed a contract with USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service for $240K for improved water lines, fences, and a well. And again, we don't know who this guy voted for, but the fact that he wouldn't call out Trump or wouldn't even give credit to Biden, I mean, tells you a lot, right? The USDA officials called him recently to tell him his contract with the NRCS's Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP, was frozen, he said. It's not clear when the funds will be released, Holden said in one video. Quote, I've already done a bunch of this work, already paid for the material and for the labor, so I'm all out of that cost, Holden said in one video, adding, quote, we are possibly going to lose our farm if the NRCS doesn't hold up their contract with us. And I'm not laughing. I would never ever want someone to lose their livelihoods. That's not why I giggled. It's just because how does Trump fuck people over this much, so consistently? Every single time he works with a contractor or an employee, he seems to screw them over or stiff them and not pay them. Every time a group votes for him, whether it's the Hispanics for Trump that I made a video about the other day, whether it's Muslims for Trump, whether it's Black Americans for Trump, or farmers for Trump, they end up getting screwed over. A USDA spokesperson said all federal agencies have been asked for such program reviews, and it's all just a mess. Donald Trump's presidency is an absolute mess, and we can leave it at that. Just remember that when Trump says China is paying billions and billions of dollars on U.S. tariffs, Trump is only half right. Our companies are paying the money on tariffs, number one, and that money goes back into the pockets of farmers who are just pissed off. So remember, a few things. The Trump presidency is a mess, and Biden is the one who gets credit for the EQIP program, who has helped many, many farmers across the country. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.